Bulk ammo. Which cartridge offers the best bang for the buck? Keep watching and find out. Hi guys, here we are once again at the shooting range to uncover the truth about the various cartridges available at the market. And if it's the same for you as it is for me, a significant amount, maybe even the majority of shooting is done with affordable ammunition, commonly known as bulk ammo, and is commonly sold in large quantities, typically in a loose packaging. This test needs to be divided into multiple parts, otherwise it would become too lengthy. I think I'll stick to featuring 3 to 4 types of cartridges per video. And perhaps I'll create a compilation video once each individual video is uploaded to YouTube. Additionally, I'm increasing the number of shots in the test. I'll start with a 10-shot group that won't count towards the final results. This will be the break-in group. Then I'll shoot 2 separate 10-shot groups that will be measured, followed by 4 5-shot groups. This should provide a solid foundation to assess the performance of the cartridge. So, this morning I took a deep dive into my ammunition stash and looked for what I had that fit the bulk description. And here is what I found. I excluded cartridges from CCI, Aguila, RWS, Lapua and some others, as I don't consider them to have any ammunition that can be classified as bulk. So, without any further ado, let's start shooting! The pistol is securely mounted in the ransom rest and we are ready to begin testing. The first cartridge that we will test is the Federal Blackpack. This is the cartridge that comes in the largest package, a whopping 1100 rounds. The rounds are lying helter-skelter in the box and they are really presenting a beautiful sight. The brass is well polished and the projectiles are evenly coated with copper. Overall, it's a very appealing cartridge. The bullet is a hollow point, making it a cost-effective option for getting rid of pests. The muzzle velocity is stated to be 1260 feet per second, but again we have to account for a 5 to 10% drop in velocity in a handgun. Now we're done with the break-in shots and moving on to the first official 10-shot series. As expected, the velocity is lower than stated, around 9%. However, this is quite a lively cartridge. At first glance, the velocities also appear fairly consistent. And there was the first misfire. That happened quickly. Well, when it comes to bulk ammo, one must expect some of these. In many of the inexpensive cartridges, the primer compound hasn't been evenly distributed along the edge of the brass. This is the price you pay for paying less. Well, let's continue. I load up with an extra cartridge at the end of this group. I guess we'll end up at around an inch for this group, which could have been much better without that flyer. Yep, it measured 0.992 inches with 9 of the shots nicely centered and that one shot ruining the overall results. Let's begin with the second 10-shot group. And I came across this cartridge on a Black Friday deal and I have shot many thousands of them during Steel Challenge training. There have been a few misfires, but overall the feeding has been smooth and the functionality has been consistent and reliable. This group turned out much better. It's amusing to see the shape of the group. It looks like an equals sign. The size of this 10-shot group was 0.634 inches, which is pretty good for a cartridge in this price class. Now let's move on to the 5-shot groups. This is starting off really well. Will it hold up all the way? Well, look at that, folks. Impressive. .286 inches is on par with 10x and other matched ammunition. We'll load up with 5 new cartridges and see if the second group is as good or if it was just a fluke. It's starting off well at least. Let's see the last 2 shots. Okay, not quite like the first one, but not bad either. It ended up at 0.378 inches, which is more than acceptable. Now on to group number 3. Okay, this one seems to be opening up a bit more in the vertical direction, but still quite acceptable. Let's see what the numbers say. 0.565 inches is still not too bad. The fourth and final group is ahead of us. No and yuck. Once again a flyer comes along and ruins it for us. Their fourth and final group ended up almost 3 times larger than the first one. 0.798 inches is bulk group size. Let's take a closer look at the graphs and numbers for this cartridge. The average for the 10-shot group was 0.813 inches or 20.64 millimeters. Still under an inch for 10 shots, which is quite good. For the 5-shot groups, we ended up at 0.506 inches or 12.87 millimeters. That's actually quite impressive. Having just 1 misfire out of 50 shots is acceptable, and it's even better than some of the Ely versions I have tested. The maximum velocity was 1169 feet per second and the minimum was 1043. This gives us a spread of 126 feet per second. The average velocity is then calculated as 1130 feet per second. The standard deviation is 25, which is neither good nor bad, indicating moderate consistency in velocity. Now onto the Winchester M22.
The Winchester M22 comes in a 500 round package, where the cartridges are lying helter-skelter. This is the classic bulk cartridge packaging. The cartridge itself weighs 40 grains and has a round nose shape. The projectile is coated with something Winchester calls black copper. I have scraped on the cartridges and no shiny copper is revealed, so I'm not sure what this black copper actually consists of. The stated muzzle velocity is 1255 feet per second, but as usual we take this with a grain of salt. A more realistic velocity in a pistol would be around 1100 to 1150 feet per second. We'll see what the chronograph tells us when the test is complete. Now that the break-in shots are done, it doesn't look too bad initially, except for that one flyer. Let's load up for the first 10-shot group. In Norway, Winchester ammunition is not the easiest to come by, nor is it the most affordable. In bulk, this cartridge costs more than Ely in bulk, and it really has to perform well to be worth it. And by the way, this is American-made ammunition. Well, this was more or less what I expected. The first 10-shot group ended up at 0.821 inches. Let's see what you can achieve with the second 10-shot group. There we have the first, and hopefully the last, misfire with the M22. Again, misfires are something you experience more with bulk ammunition than with more expensive cartridges. But for the purpose we can typically use the bulk ammo for, we can accept this to a greater extent than with pricer ammunition. And we'll see if it goes off on the second try. I'm not sure if you can see it in the video, but there is significantly more muzzle flash and smoke compared to the Federal Blackpack. There is also a louder bang. This makes me speculate whether a slower burning powder has been used, causing more combustion outside the barrel. And the misfire went off on the second attempt. This is a typical sign that the primer compound is not evenly distributed in the rim of the cartridge. Group 2 turned out even larger than the first one. Let's switch to the 5-shot groups. The first 5-shot group didn't turn out too bad. It ended up at 0.488 inches, which is in the same ballpark as the Federal Blackpack. Let's load up for the second group. This group could have been really good if it weren't for the flyer. Well, that's bulk ammo for you. You go from a brilliant group to hitting all over the paper. We ended up just below an inch, to be more precise 0.986 inches. Let's get ready for the third group. And let's hope the projectiles decide to stay more closely grouped this time. Okay, the third group was better. It ended up at 0.415 inches. Once again, there is a halfway flyer that opens it, but not as bad as last time. We load the magazine with the final 5 M22 cartridges, and we hope we can end this test with a spectacular group. Well, it's not spectacular, but you can live with half an inch, or 0.502 inches to be exact. Let's look at the averages of the groups. The 10-shot groups ended up with an average just under an inch, 0.919 inches or 23.34 millimeters. This is slightly larger than the black pack. The 5-shot groups, as expected, are smaller. They ended up at 0.597 inches or 15.18 millimeters, again slightly larger than the Federal Black Pack. As you can see from the graph, the velocities are all over the place. The maximum velocity is 1169 feet per second and the minimum is 1024. The average velocity then becomes 1087 feet per second. And the spread is 145 feet per second, slightly larger than the Federal Black Pack. The standard deviation is 35, which is nothing to cheer about. Let's move on to the third and final cartridge in this episode, namely the Federal Champion. The Federal Champion comes in a slightly unconventional quantity, 525 rounds. The projectiles are all laying loosely in the box, as is typical for bulk cartridges. On the box it's stated that the projectiles are copper plated, but the copper coating appears to be unevenly applied. Now, there is never a jacket drawn on a 22 long rifle, but the copper are rather electroplated. However, this one doesn't look particularly convincing. The projectile weighs in at 36 grains, and it has a round-nosed hollow point shape. According to Federal, the muzzle velocity is 1280 feet per second. However, we know that this velocity will be lower. As usual, we start with a 10-shot group, which is not included in the results. The prep group wasn't very impressive. Let's load up 10 shots for the first included group and hope for a better result. It actually appears that the first included group is larger than the prep group. I'm starting to wonder if a prep group is really necessary. What is your experience with prepping the barrel before testing ammunition? Let me know in the comment section. The first group wasn't impressive at all with its 1.169 inches. It went a bit all over the place. But we don't lose heart and load up with 10 new shots for the second group. As we can see, the velocities are around plus or minus 1100 feet per second, which is approximately 15% lower than advertised. That's a bit lower than expected. This group starts off better than the previous one. Let's see if it holds up all the way through. Okay, with 0.931 inches, it was somewhat better than the first group. It's not superb, but you must remember what we work with here. Now, let's move on to the 5-shot groups. It is not often that we see these cartridges at Norwegian shooting ranges. How about where you are located? Is this one or one of the others we have tested today common in your area? Feel free to leave a comment with your experiences. The first group didn't show much flare. With 0.671 inches, it falls in the middle of the results so far. Let's proceed with the second group. Group 2 turned out even larger than the previous one. The result was 0.746 inches. No need to dwell on bad experiences. Let's shoot group 3 and see what the results that yields. But before we move on to the next group, I would like you to do as this wonderful young girl asked, and that is that you subscribe to my channel. If you don't, you will truly disappoint her, and you wouldn't want to do that, would you? Okay, enough with pretty girls. Let's move on to group 3. Oh dear, that was an ugly flyer. That's not gonna be good for a group size. Yeah, that flyer really ruined it. This group ended up at 0.974 inches, the worst 5-shot group so far in this test. Let's shoot the last 5-shot for this video. At least this one seems to be somewhat better. With 0.702 inches, it's nothing to celebrate, but it's certainly an improvement from the last one. The average of the 10-shot groups turned out to be 1.045 inches or 26.54 millimeters. For the 5-shot groups, we ended up with an average of 0.773 inches or 19.64 millimeter. Now, let's take a closer look at the graphs and numbers. As you can see from the graph, we have some shots that stands out significantly. It appears that the velocities have a tendency to drop rather than peak. This is certainly not good for precision. We end up with a maximum velocity of 1159 feet per second and a minimum velocity of 961 feet per second, resulting in a spread of 198 feet per second. This is a rather high number. The average velocity is 1099 feet per second, which is 14.1% lower than the stated value. The standard deviation is 49, which is not good, to put it mildly. On the positive side, unlike the 2 other cartridges in this test, we didn't experience any misfires or malfunctions. Our preliminary summary reveals that in first place we find Federal Blackpack, in second place Winchester M22, and in third place we have Federal Champion. I'm quite confident that in the next video we will see some changes in these results. And take a look at the teaser at the very end of this video and guess which cartridge is among those being tested next time. With that, I say thank you for now and we'll see each other again soon.